Hi there. I wish I would honor whoever I put up first so that, because the way that I sit in my camera angle looks this way. So if I'm the other way, it just has this weird effect. So I don't know. But StreamYard doesn't have that feature yet. So
if I could do this, I'm looking at you on my
oh,
screen.
see,
Am I looking away from you on your screen?
Yeah. We should just not think too hard about it.
Just look at the screen. Tricia's over there. That's right. Yeah.
Hi, I'm Tricia Broderick with Ignite Insight and Innovation.
Hi, I'm Diana Larsen at dianalarsen.com and AOS House Consulting.
And together we co-wrote Lead Without Blame. That has now been out for a little while. And yet I still get these amazing comments and things. Like I was just at a conference and I had somebody who's highlighting that they just finished reading the book. And it was just awesome. Like it's the thing that keeps bringing me joy, like on levels that I didn't, nobody warned me about. Like nobody told me that part was going to happen. So this is cool.
Yeah, people keep discovering it, and that's really great. I mean,
it's fascinating, right? So we come together once a month, partially because we just miss each other and checking in, but also because there is just so many topics to keep talking about and to keep exploring and to keep digging into, and just to kind of give a little bit more and provide to the community in different ways. And so we try to come up with a theme each month based on whatever pops into our head the month before, unless we get a suggestion. And this month we were really thinking about that spring fever, right? Like, you know, the last couple ones, it's all been about momentum. You all have seen a pattern in our topics lately, but in a lot of cases, it's because it's what we need as well in to doing these things. And so last month, I think we talked a lot about gaining momentum and stuff, but there is still just an element that I wanted to go even to a fundamental of just energy. Like I can know that there's momentum necessary. I don't know if I have the energy for it, right? And what it might mean to energize yourself so that you can take that momentum or so that you can deal with those things. And so I thought maybe we could this go around just talk about that honoring of yourself and your energy and what you need so that you can then focus on the momentum or focus on the whatever challenge you're facing or different things that are coming up as we come into this season for this year. And it does seem more important, like 2025 definitely seems like it's going to need a lot of energy, people. It's definitely playing out that way.
Yeah. I had such great hopes for it that it was going to be better than 2024, but it's going to have to work hard to get there right now.
It keeps just saying, hold my drink. Here he comes, right? With those things.
So, and the temptation is to just fall into a hole, you know, when there's just so much going on that's, you know, pulling us down. Keeping our energy up and moving forward just becomes harder and harder. Yeah. So I think I'm glad we picked this topic.
I feel like I personally need it right now. Yeah. Although I will fully, like, one of my areas for energy is travel / people, right? And so I am coming off that trip to Finland and that is giving me some life. And it's still, although I've already felt I've been home for almost a week and I can feel that energy. But it is one of my areas is just, even when I feel like I don't want to be around people, being around people helps me. I'm an extreme extrovert. Like Jake Calabrese says there's nobody further on the scale than me. But for me, that really does. And it's not energy in the sense of, it's not like because we're out walking or doing, it's energy from inspiration. It's energy from connection. It's energy from getting to explore and travel and doing those things and seeing something I hadn't seen before and done. And so for me, that is very energizing, but it's hard because it lasts about a week. And then I'm like,
Right. Yeah. Well, so, you know, something that also is energizing for me is really staying aware of the new things I'm learning And what, I have opportunities. It feels like every day to learn something new about what's going on, or what, and so that activity of being able to keep learning and keep noticing that I'm learning, and I'm maybe improving, maybe just getting smarter about something, maybe just getting new information, whatever the kind of learning that it is, um, that helps me stay energized. In addition to, I mean, the things you were talking about, absolutely too, also. But um, I am learning how to live with this for a while now.
I don't know if you were going to share.
Yeah, yeah. And well, what you see is what you get from me. So, but this wasn't a happy incident that happened to me, but I got to learn a lot of new things about, how do you deal with certain kinds of injuries, and how does the medical establishment deal with that, and what I find is every piece of learning that I get that seems kind of disconnected with everything else, sooner or later it comes back around, and I find another place where having learned that is useful and helps me move through some challenge or whatever. So yeah, the need to be able to find the things that keep us energized, even when it feels like times are dark, or we're not having the same amount of personal power that we've had before, or any number of things, and whatever our health conditions are, that if we can keep learning, we can keep moving forward, and like we talked about last month, having that momentum and being energized to connect with the people around us, and so on.
I think for me, part of the energy too, and especially like in that example, Diana, is just like also giving myself that permission to not invest some energy, right?
Yeah.
I'm not going to do a long day. I'm exhausted, or I just flew back. I technically I arrived at 1. I could technically jump on that call, but I am not going to. Like I'm going to. So in some ways, it's almost like I give myself permission to protect the energy that I do have.
Yeah.
Especially if it's limited, especially if it's constrained, especially if it's exhausted, right? And so like, and I do find that I have to almost give myself permission, like, no, sleep helps me energize, or rest helps me energize as well. And it seems so obvious.
Yeah.
And yet I can go, especially if I want my check marks, right? And then I deplete myself, and it's so much harder to get back once you've depleted your energy completely, versus pulling back, giving yourself permission to rest a little bit as you're going along, versus waiting till you basically totally burn and crash out.
Right.
Not that I've ever done that.
Yeah, right. Well, and I think that is a part of, I mean, our topic being energizing yourself, is knowing when to move forward, knowing when to pull back, knowing what re-energizes you, what you need to do to maintain and sustain your energy. And it can't be 100% on all the time for no matter how extroverted we may or may not be. What it's going to take to energize us, I mean, and that's actually one of the things you mentioned is kind of the definition of extrovert, which is getting energy from being around other people, right? Whereas presumably, I'm not sure I go for all of this anymore, but presumably if someone's very introverted, they get energy from being able to collect themselves. But I've also noticed that most introverts that I know also get energy from being with very small groups of friends, but being with friends, maybe just 1 or 2 other people, can really feel energizing. And so, but if I would have said, and a number of years ago that I was probably out there on the end of the extrovert spectrum with you. But that's changed for me over time. And I've had to pay attention to that, and that where my energy is coming from is shifting a bit and needing to spend a little more time in contemplation, in not necessarily meditating, but similar activities to that, being mindful, reminding myself to be mindful of what's going on and aware of what's happening around me and so on. That now that is more energizing than it used to be for me. And so, I think we all have to sort of reflect on where does our energy come from and what do we need to do to replenish it when it feels depleted, and self-management, self-awareness and self-management it's a piece of that. I think that is really important.
Yeah, it's interesting because I work out and I work out a lot and things, but in my head, I think when I started telling myself like I worked out and I'd be more tired, right? Like, well, that was exhausting.
Oh, yeah.
And yet I now find the days that I don't work out or I don't do the handstand practice or something along those lines, then I'm actually more tired, right? Like, right. And so that's one of the areas for me of self-management is doing that. And it has that handstand duration of 30 to 45 minutes every day has become slightly meditative for me.
Yeah.
It's helped with my shoulders on top of it. Yeah. I think that's the other part of your energy. And you and I were talking about this offline beforehand, is just also the energy, not just even yourself mentally, but physically, in the sense of like your body, if it's trying to recover, if it's trying to, it's exhausted. So you're like mentally maybe ready to go, but your body is like, right. You need this. And so, I find that when I work out, I have a better balance of that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that makes sense. Well, and I noticed that you inspired somebody else to put a handstand video on LinkedIn. That was pretty cool.
He did. He was actually so how in that particular session, I always do one volunteer, right? And he shot, I didn't even get the words volunteer completely out of my mouth before he shot his hand up. And he was like way far in the back or whatever. So he comes running up, he does the activity with me. It was fantastic. And so he went back in the hotel that night and attempted his handstand with it. So I had to laugh. He was like,
that was pretty cool.
Yeah, it was a nice twist of things with stuff.
Yeah. And that's the other thing about
it. And sorry, but that was energizing for me, right? Like seeing that impact was so that's part of why the people thing for me is it isn't just like, oh, we're laughing, which trust me, I need, but it's also the impact is energizing for me.
Right.
The connection does it for me.
Well, and when we stay energized for ourselves, in ourselves, we do influence other people.
We can energize others.
Yes, and others very often we can't guarantee it. I mean, that's another one of those interesting things where you can't guarantee this outcome, but you can make it more likely that if you show up with energy and ready to go and motivated to do things, other people are more likely to get on board.
Well, that's one of the rules that we called out in the accelerated learning environments, right? That alive factor and how much you're bringing. And if you're role modeling that, it does, and it can influence other people feeling that alive factor in setting.
Yeah. I think that is really true. And I think that's an important thing for those of us who are helpers, advisors, coaches, whatever our title is, but that managers who are working with other people, that it's important to remember that if other folks we're getting the perception that other folks aren't putting as much energy in as we or the situation or the environment would like from them, then there we go. We need to look at ourselves and say, and how are we modeling energy, and how are we not faking it, but taking care of ourselves so that we can show up with energy that will help encourage folks to respond in the same way.
Some people, so this is a question that's just popped in my head, but some people will say things like, well, I just fake energy until I kind of feel it or whatever. I can't do that. Can you?
No, I mean, I know how to, but I can't ever.
It just never feels authentic, and then I get mad at myself.
Yeah, well, and I can't sustain it for any period of time. So I just I've learned over time, just there's no point in that because because it doesn't stick very long, you know. I mean, I can show up all smiley and, you know, even when
and then it takes one small thing and I'm like,
yeah, right. It's really hard to keep that up. So yeah, I don't do so much of that. Yeah.
I think the other thing that I do in a lot of cases with energizing myself, and especially like even like right now, I talked earlier about just permission to not, right? But also like I will clean house. I will do the spring cleaning. Like there are tons of ideas I had over the year to do. I was going to do this marketing thing. I could do this kind of thing. And I'm like, no, if I didn't do it in the last year, I need to do some spring cleaning because even with it there, like even when your backlog's too big, your brain is spending energy there. Your brain is spending some, and I do some spring cleaning, like and thinking through where I want to focus. And I don't do it right at the start of the year because it's too emotional for me. It's too like too much baggage, right?
Right.
And so but right about now, I start kind of looking at like my future to-do list. And I'm like, yeah, that ain't going to happen now. Like I'm not doing that. Or what's this one? Where do I want to invest the energy that I do have? And by just letting go of things, again, not just resting for the moment, but like really kind of clearing house and doing that. Just the act of that is energizing because I'm like, okay, I got this now. Like, let's go. And I have this new energy because I'm focused, right? So getting focused helps energize me.
Well, yes, focus. And that makes me think about the classic agile response to things, which is slicing, right? Making it smaller. You know, a series of small, even tiny successes is much more energizing than trying to build up you know, over time to the really big one that takes a long time to achieve before you get the energy from success. And so I think that's another thing to keep in mind. It's like it doesn't all have to be energy to do the really huge thing. It just is energy to, you know, accomplish the next small thing that I can look at and say, I did that. And I don't use checklists as much as you do, Tricia, but certainly
I don't know if anybody does.
Yeah, but that's a variation on that, right? Lots of little successes that you can point to that say, I did that, I accomplished that, and that also helps to keep my energy up. And I think it does for a lot of people, just being able to look at those things and I set that goal and I accomplished it. And even if it was tiny, you know, even if it was, I am going to look at all 153 emails in my various inboxes, and I am going to at least do a small step toward processing them, which I did yesterday because I haven't been able to really use the computer very much with these hands. And but I was watching those grow, and it was getting huge in my head. All the things that might be lurking in those 150 some emails. And so just going through them and just seeing what's there and having a better idea of who's asking me for what and what I can just delete and, you know, all of that, you know, gave me some energy to say, oh, I did that. And it didn't take nearly as long as I thought it was going to take. Now, going back and actually dealing with all the things I put red flags on, that's going to take a little longer. But I'm good. My virtual assistant, Tommy, whom I adore, by the way, if anybody's wondering, suggested to me that I just, you know, take a few minutes every day and chip away at those red flags. And so that's what I will be doing. Just as long as, you know, my hands can feel okay about doing that, I can I can chip away at just a few things. I'm not writing any long essays for anybody right now. I'll just tell you that. but I will do my best to respond. So yeah.
I think that leads to my last tip that I'm realizing for myself, because I was looking back at my calendar for this last week, right? And like what I've been doing since I got back to keep myself. And I think the other thing for me is helping people, right? Like, because I get a huge amount, like when I see somebody get that check mark or do that little thing, like even as you were talking it, like I was like, oh, look at you, and I don't know what that is about me, but it does energize me. Like when somebody's challenging themselves, when they're accomplishing something, when they feel like they're learning, like I'm excited for them. Like I get happy for that. And so it is energizing. So there's a little bit of like, what can I help? What can I, it really isn't just, let's go do karaoke together to energize, which does work for me, but, I can do it in the helping and watching somebody like succeed at something or do something in it. And just as you were talking, it made me think of it.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, we're at 22 minutes almost.
I know. So. Okay. What do you got coming up?
Well, I'm going to be at the Organization Design Forum Conference in Denver at the end of the month. It's like the 29th to the 30th or May 1st or something like that. And it's evidently at a fun hotel there. Do you know the Curtis Hotel? Anyway, they're promoting it as a fun hotel. So I'm looking forward to going to that and seeing that group of colleagues that I don't get to see as often as I see my Agile colleagues. And then I'll be home for most of May. And then toward the end of May, I head to Europe, and I'll be in Europe for 2 months. I'll be at the XP 2025 conference in Bruges, Switzerland. And then I'll be going to the retrospective gathering in Austria. And right after that, I'll be presenting 3 one-day workshops in Vienna. So anybody in Vienna who's interested in getting in touch with me. Then I'm going to go to the German Coach Camp. And then I've got a leadership summit in Munich and possibly Agile World in Munich, although I need to nail that down a little more. And then the Socrates conference in Northern Germany in July. And then from there, going back to Denver for the Agile, all the activities around Agile 2025, the Mile High Agile. I registered for everything. Mile High Agile, the main Agile conference, Agile 2025 conference, and then the Agile Coach Camp Worldwide, which will be in Denver. So I got a lot coming up.
I love it. I love it. Yeah. I want to be in Europe for 2 months, man. It was a wonderful time just now. So I have some virtuals coming up, but very limited, not things, but I'm going to be at the PMI symposium in Denver this middle of this month. And then I'm headed to Orlando for Star East at the end of the month. I'm headed to Budapest. So I will be over there in May for Craft. And then I'll be back here for Mile High Agile and Agile 2025. So I'll be at both of those as well with things. So I'm super excited. This just knowing what's coming up is energizing. Yeah. So
it's gonna be fun. I had such a great time in Europe when I was there for 6.5 weeks last summer. So I'm really looking forward to this year. I'm extending it by about 1.5 weeks, I think. So yeah.
Nice. Well,
good. Thank you, Andrew.
Andrew's highlighting Curtis Hotel does look like a lot of fun. So perfect. I'll have to check it out. Otherwise, we'll see you next month. I do believe we've set a date of May 6th is the next time we'll go live. So we'll see you then.
Okay. Bye.